Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today is Democratic gubernatorial candidate Karl Dean. Mayor Dean, you have a new TV attack ad out in some ways about Bill Lee. You call him extremist. What do you mean?
Well, I wouldn't call it an attack ad. I think it's a comparative ad where I state his position on issues, and I do think some of his positions are extreme. I think, frankly, saying that we're not going to take our federal tax dollars and bring money back to Tennessee to help Tennesseans is not a good position. I think his position on firearms, which is hard for me to change, is it more
in schools?
In schools or permitless carry. I mean, I think permitless carry is an extreme position, and I think arming teachers and having weapons at universities and college, I think that's extreme.
Do you wish you had taken a stronger language approach about this earlier in the campaign? You did not use that language during the three debates that you had with your opponent.
Well, I think I mean, what I've done, and I've tried to do since the beginning, is and I think it's totally appropriate in the campaign, is to do the comparisons. This is where I am and this is where he is. And I think I say in that ad, I say, you know, he's for guns, arming teachers, he's for this and that. I'm against all of that, and I am. And I think that's where the Tennesseans are. You
talk about vouchers as well. He is for vouchers, you are not. But right. You also were a strong supporter of charter schools when you were Mayor of Nashville.
Huge difference. The huge difference is...
What is the difference?
Well, charter schools are public schools. They're funded by the public, run by the school board, and they're public schools in every way.
But people who don't like charter schools say it drains money just like vouchers.
That could be a debate, but the facts are that charter schools are public schools. A voucher literally takes the money out of public schools and puts them into a private system. And so you look at a rural county in Tennessee that has one high school and 2 middle schools, and you start doing vouchers, $6,000, $7,000, whatever, you're going to get a private school system created to get that money. I mean, and they're going to take that money out of the school system, and it will totally undermine it. And that'll happen across the state. And vouchers are not at all like charter schools in the sense that the success rate is almost non-existent.
Well, Bill Lee has a company that has a number of contracts with the state. He is now moving away from those, but apparently keeping some for local governments. You seem to think that's a conflict of interest.
I think it's a real conflict of interest. I think one of the things that has to happen here in this campaign is, you know, he's made a decision long ago that he was not going to release his tax returns. Apparently, he's the sole shareholder of his company. And if he is doing, and he's doing extensive work with the government, millions of dollars, which is ironical given his criticism of government spending, but he's doing millions of dollars with the government, state and local. And I think the AG's opinions on this is very clear. If the governor has a role in superintendent supervising a contract and has an interest in the contract, that's an impermissible conflict.
So you think even if it's with local government he needs to get rid of it? You think he should get rid of all his government contracts?
I think he needs to tell the public what his relationship is with every government in Tennessee. What if he's doing an economic development deal in Nashville, the state is, and what if he has a contract with the Lee company has a contract with the company that's coming here? I mean, the whole thing is filled with potential conflicts, and it's amazing that he's not being required to disclose any of that at this point. That should be disclosed before the election, because that's going to become a very real conflict the moment after the election if he's successful.
The polls don't show it, but we continue to hear some reports that those who favored other candidates during the gubernatorial election on the Republican side are not necessarily meshing in behind the Bill Lee campaign. Are you hearing the same thing?
Yep.
Some governors in the past have appointed Republicans or have appointed people from other parties or kept cabinet members. Is that something you're going to probably do if you're elected governor? Yeah, I
mean, I definitely would have Republicans in the cabinet. I think you have to. I think you have to, you know, I'm running on this idea that pragmatism, get things done, working together, get beyond sort of the bickering. And I think that would be a great first step to do that. And there are talented people in the administration now. There are talented people throughout the state who are of a different political party than me, and I'd be happy to have them work with us.
Any names or departments you'd like to share at this point that you might be considering to keep?
You know, Pat, I'm extremely confident I'm going to win, but I'm not going to start naming the cabinet today.
How do you sell that Republican outreach, though, to your Democratic base? Because this is pretty tribal these days, and everybody wants to have people that are appointed positions of authority to be members of their tribe, not the other tribe.
Yeah, and well, you know, I haven't felt any pressure on that yet, and you know, maybe down the road I will. But you just got to do what's right, and I think it would have been a great thing for Republican governors to include some Democrats. What Tennessee is lacking in politics, what people really have to understand is what the issue for Tennessee is. We don't have a balance in our politics anymore. I mean, it has all gone further and further to the right. And what I really worry about is that we're going to have, if I'm unsuccessful in this race and Mr. Lee's the governor and he's further to the right than Governor Haslam, and you have a legislature that's further to the right, we're going to start passing legislation that I think is ultimately going to be harmful to the state. We need to get back to the center. We need to get back to a two-party system where people have to work together and compromise and get things done.
In terms of cabinet appointments and going to the right, there are some reports circulating that perhaps some people like Joe Carr, former state legislator, and May Beavers, former gubernatorial candidate and state legislator, might also be potential positions to be in his cabinet. Have you heard that?
I've heard those names mentioned as possible appointments by Mr. Lee, but that's just rumor in terms of what I've heard. But I know he's close to May Beavers.
So where do you go from here at this point? You're running against a candidate who has no government or political experience. That seems to be something, based on his poll numbers, that people want and like.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is that element out there. I mean, certainly that was sort of an element in the presidential election in 2016. I do think that Tennesseans, if you look at our state history, we tend to go for a governor who is more moderate, who's got some background in government, knows how to manage things, and who's going to move the state forward. I think I fit that bill. I think, you know, I do think my experience as mayor, where, you know, compared to what he's done, he's got a good record, but I ran a $2 billion budget. I ran a government that did a lot more than just one thing. We did, we did water and sewage, but we also did public safety and health and hospitals and everything else, and education. And I think I'm ready. And I think running in a nonpartisan race where I had to get Democrats, Republicans, and Independents to vote for me, and then managing the city in that way, is great training for this job. Democratic gubernatorial candidate Karl Dean is our guest. Back to continue our conversation. More talk with the potential gubernatorial candidate after this break.